Inclusive education is about every child, and we have to give tools for each student to learn the best way they can.
Educație inclusivă înseamnă că toți copiii au acces la educație de calitate într-un mediu inclusiv. Se simt mai importanți, se simt acceptați, se simt egalul profesorului și, de ce nu, partenerului în predare.
I think an inclusive classroom would be one where the kids feel safe, they feel accepted for who they are, and they have this trust that they can express themselves in a way that may be different from the other, but it's important to accept the other and to accept that difference.
Diversity is considered an advantage and a value, and they should have been respected and supported while being educated.
It is not just assimilate those that are different to the mainstream. It is also to recognize that it is good to be different, to have a different culture. It is a richness. The diversity is good for everybody.
I think they will become visible and feel that they are heard, that their needs matter, and it's like a boost of confidence, and that should add up to the motivation that they have to learn.
There's historically been a disconnect between the way that education is designed and the ability for all students to access a really high quality education. And so the idea behind inclusive education is thinking about the best teaching practices and policies and systemic changes that need to happen so that the kids who have been most excluded are able to access everything and learn. And so when we think about those practices, they're very context specific. The practices that you do are going to depend on the students you have in your class.
We have to look at the kids in their uniqueness, and if you know that you have different kids in there with different needs, it's very important to actually include and integrate every child in the process of learning and to make them feel that they are important. And I think that's inclusive education for me, to make the children feel that they belong or they are actually valued for who they really are.
FIERST is a 3-year transnational project, and it brings together 9 partners from 5 countries, from Romania, Bulgaria, Estonia, the UK, and Sweden. In terms of objectives for the project, the first one would definitely be raising the number of teachers who can identify and address the needs of all students, setting up professional learning communities in schools and beyond, and creating that space to come together, share, and see how they can support each other. And lastly, it's about documenting this entire process, drawing lessons, then sharing those lessons with the broader education communities in these countries, at European level, and beyond. The 3 Teach for All partners in Romania, Bulgaria, and Estonia, they realize that even though they're in different contexts, there are similar needs, and putting together a diverse alliance will allow for stronger solutions to the needs they identified.
We have been focusing on student-centered teaching and learning. When the teacher is student-centered, focusing on every student and making every student active in the learning process, then every child gets the attention they need.
Õppimas üksteiselt, õppimas omavahel, ja õpetaja annab erinevaid võimalusi õppimiseks, arvestades õppija vajadusi, oskusi, eelteadmisi.
Kohandada see keskkond sel moel, et õpilasel oleks võimalik selles ise avastada, ise tegutseda, ise märgata, ise kogeda. Et õpilane on kesksel kohal, mina olen pigem nagu taustajõud, kes teda vajadusel suunab.
In Estonian legislation and policy documents about education really support student-centered learning. But the reality is that it's just not happening in many schools. So what we are trying to achieve is the school level change. So this year in FIERST project we are working with nearly 1/3 of teachers in this school who volunteered to be part of this development program. We've had 2 sets of trainings and professional learning community meetings with them every 3 weeks where they reflect on what they have used from different methods and approaches that they learned, and also they share new ideas and make plans together with their colleagues.
koostades ja välja mõeldes oligi meie mõte ju see, et anda õpetajatele kogemus ise õppijatena sellest, kuidas on koos õppida.
This project has taught me a lot about how to make training work, the opt-in process and the active participation and sharing your knowledge, not that we tell you what's the right thing to do. I think these are the key factors because we cannot teach active methods by lecturing the teachers. That doesn't make any sense. And this also proves to the teachers that it works.
In FIERST, the approach is that we chose a set of competences and we are trying to work with them to develop those competences, and then they have to work with their students to develop them.
We designed the courses to start with self-leadership, to have a look at yourself and see what are the good points and what are your strengths and how can you take them into the classroom. But it was really important to look at yourself first.
To accept yourself and evaluate yourself. Tell yourself it is okay the way you are and you can do better every day. This is a message I wish all the teachers would tell their students.
It's about self-reflection and self-awareness and to actually be present in the lesson and in the interaction that you have with the kids.
One of the competencies that we approach, we call it social effectiveness. They learn how to identify behaviors that belongs to certain emotions, identify certain types of attachment and how to work with them.
The connection between how the brain works and how emotions influence the way we behave. It's really important to acknowledge them and actually integrate them in your work. As a society, we are not taught to talk about our emotions or to, feel vulnerable. And if you as a teacher don't understand that this is important at the personal level for you first, you cannot take that into the classroom.
Un impact pozitiv îl văd apropierea și deschiderea către mine. În urma acțiunilor mele s-au deschis mai mult către mine. Bine, nu pot spune că sunt o persoană rigidă și că nu se puteau apropia de mine. În schimb, m-am deschis eu mai mult către ei și asta i-a făcut și pe ei să reacționeze.
We hope to see a transformation with teachers from their personal point of view, because it's really important for you as a teacher and as a person to be able to know yourself if you want to work with your students.
M-a ajutat destul de mult să mă cunosc mai bine și chiar am fost încântată că o să particip la acest proiect. Simt că mă pot dezvolta eu ca și profesor prin acest proiect.
So the FIERST project aims to promote inclusive education by training teachers on how to develop 21st century skills in students. Education in Bulgaria is still rather focused on learning facts rather than really developing skills. It's not that teachers don't consider skills important, it's that very often they just don't know how to do that while teaching the specific subject. That's why it's very important that teachers have the mindsets and the skills to develop these in their students. What we are doing is give them these opportunities to explore the 21st century competencies.
В проекта FIERST аз съм обучител. В рамките на проекта нашето училище специално работи за четивната грамотност, понеже установихме, че това е наистина ключова компетентност, която нашите деца трябва да развият, поради факта, че работим с 100% ученици от ромски произход и разбира се, границата, бариерата между техния език и българския се отразява задължително на ученето. И ние решихме, че е изключително важно да започнем от тази базова компетентност за тях, за да може оттам нататък, стъпвайки на нея, да работим и за останалите умения. Но тази година със сигурност вече успяхме много да напреднем в това отношение, защото и 10-мата колеги, които участват, наистина успяха да постигнат невероятни неща с децата си. Резултатите, чисто които показват, също са на по-високо ниво от предната година. Аз също ви споделих за 7-ми клас, които напредват, мога да кажа, дори тройно по-добре, отколкото миналата година. И смятам, че това много се дължи на развиването на четивната грамотност целенасочено.
Every 3 weeks, there's a community of practice meeting where the teachers gather for 90 minutes to reflect on the methods that they have used in their teaching process, how these methods have worked, what challenges have they experienced, what have they noticed in their classrooms while practicing those methods. And my role as a facilitator is really just to create the space for them to learn from each other.
Tulla kokku ja suhelda, jagada kogemusi, jagada mõtteid koos, tulla uutele ideedele ja tunda sellest rõõmu, et nii ka võib.
In this program we have put a special effort of getting to know each other better, because this is a basis for trust, and learning is so much easier in an environment where you can trust everybody else. When we face challenges, when things get tough, this trust is a key to finding solutions together.
We also are trying to teach them how to come together, how to listen to each other, how to look for information to your colleagues and solutions, and also share solutions.
We want to empower teachers to share, to invite more and more teachers, and maybe we can spread the news with these PLC communities, because I think they're really important.
What happens in the teacher's room usually goes in the classroom, and if you feel as a teacher that you are part of a group, and it's easier for you to try new things because you know that you are supported, and you are, if you don't know something, you will get help from someone. And I think it's important to feel that you are part of the community before you actually create a community inside your classroom. Because if you know the benefit of that feeling, you actually want to see that in your kids. Also, what I saw is that they have more openness to actually implement new strategies and to try new things inside the school.
Este clar că în școală există o altă stare de spirit. Este clar că au început să existe legături mai puternice între grupurile de prieteni. Este o altă atmosferă în cancelarie, pentru că aproape că gândim la fel și încercăm să găsim soluții pentru problemele noastre împreună.
Да видят, че не е толкова страшно и че всичко това може да се случва и е в полза на учениците най-вече.
Аз съм с малък стаж в сферата на образованието и много ми беше трудно да си признавам там, където имам грешки и да търся помощ. Помогна ми това да разбера, че има още много хора като мен и че мога да седна да споделя проблема и че ще намеря решение с помощта на другите хора. Дава ми свобода, дава ми спокойствие, дава ми свобода. Може би наистина екипа. Това, че се сплотихме, че станахме едно голямо семейство.
Много често става бързо решаването на проблема, идват много идеи. Колегите започнаха да търсят в интернет най-различни неща и практики. Имаме си страница във Фейсбук, където споделяме помежду си и се свързваме с колегите от другите училища. И мога да кажа, че нещата се случват доста положително за нас като колектив.
When they have experienced that, yes, I can learn and learn a lot from my colleague, then I give the same opportunity to my students to learn from each other. Creating the space where they can experience that when we are learner-centered in our methods, then it really helps me as a learner, and it will help my students as well.
We're actually all students. We're all here to learn. And I think that's a mentality that many of the FIERST project leaders have, and many of the teachers who are engaged in this project have this mentality that they're there to learn. You know, when you think about creating a more inclusive environment, if teachers are coming into the setting thinking of themselves as learners and as themselves as students, that shifts the culture in a classroom.
Sundinud mind õpetajana mugavustsoonist välja proovima neid põnevaid asju lastega, toetama, märkama õpilast rohkem, kasutama neid toredaid töövõtteid, mida te olete läbi selle programmi meile pakkunud.
Primul rând, proiectul m-a ajutat să mă descoper. Descoperit la acest proiect că totul trebuie să pornească de la mine și că este foarte important ca eu să fiu ok și să transmit asta către copii și de asemenea cum să transform punctele slabe în puncte forte care să mă ajute în munca cu copii.
Аз бих тръгнала от там, че ние просто сме изключително щастливи, че бяхме избрани да участваме в този проект и това донесе един вид малко и самочувствие при учителите. Наистина всеки един ден, във всеки един час виждам промяна в учениците. Те самите ученици придобиха самочувствие.
Аз първата година, в която дойдох и попитах класа си за какво мечтаят, какво искат да станат, те не ми казаха нищо. Те нямаха мечти. Но сега вече мечтаят. Моите деца искат да станат учители, лекари, полицаи, което е много. Наистина е много.